The cabin lights dimmed as the plane hurtled through the night sky, but Troy couldn't ignore the piercing stares from across the aisle. His 5-year-old son, Jamie, had woken up screaming from a nightmare, his tiny body racked with sobs that echoed through the first-class section. Without thinking, Troy scooped him up, cradling him against his chest, whispering soothing words until the cries faded into soft hiccups, only to hear a woman's sharp voice cut through the air. "That's disgusting. A man like you shouldn't be touching a child that way." Troy froze, his heart pounding. He was no stranger to judgment, having come out as gay a decade ago in a world that still clung to outdated norms, but this accusation hit like a gut punch. The woman, dressed in a crisp business suit, leaned over to her husband, murmuring loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Probably not even his real kid. You know how these types are." Her husband nodded, pulling out his phone to snap a discreet photo, his face twisted in disapproval. Troy's mind raced. He recognized them vaguely from the airport lounge. Colleagues from his own company, mid-level managers he'd barely interacted with. But now, their words ignited a firestorm inside him, one that would unravel secrets, loyalties, and lives. By the time the plane touched down in New York, the incident had escalated. The flight attendant, a kind woman named Maria, had intervened, assuring Troy that everything was fine, but the couple, Karen and Mark, had already posted about it on social media, tagging the airline and hinting at inappropriate behavior in first class. Troy's phone buzzed with notifications as he deplaned, Jamie asleep in his arms. His ex-partner, David, who had helped raise Jamie since the adoption 3 years ago, was waiting at baggage claim. "What happened?" David asked, his eyes widening as Troy recounted the story. David, a quiet architect with a gentle soul, pulled Troy into a hug, but the embrace felt hollow. Their relationship had been strained lately, shadowed by Troy's demanding job as CEO of Technova, a rising software firm. Back home in their Brooklyn brownstone, Troy couldn't shake the rage. He logged into his work email, seeing the couple's profiles. Karen Thompson, head of HR, and Mark Thompson, sales director. Married, conservative, and apparently homophobic. The post had gone viral within company circles, with comments piling up. "Is this our CEO? Disgraceful." Troy's hands trembled as he drafted an internal memo, but David stopped him. "Don't react in anger, Troy. Think about Jamie. Think about us." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the old spark flickered, the love that had built their family against all odds. But Troy knew this wasn't just personal. It was a test of everything he'd fought for. The next morning, Troy arrived at Technova's Manhattan headquarters, the glass tower gleaming under the sun. Whispers followed him through the lobby. In his corner office, he called an emergency meeting with the board. "I've been accused of impropriety," he said flatly, projecting the social media post on the screen. Gasps rippled through the room. Karen and Mark sat at the end of the table, their faces paling as recognition dawned. "This is a misunderstanding," Karen stammered. "We didn't know it was you." Troy's voice was steel. "You didn't care who it was. You assumed the worst because I'm gay." The room fell silent. Mark shifted uncomfortably. "It was just a reaction. The kid was crying, and..." Troy cut him off. "My son. Adopted legally, loved fiercely. Your prejudice could have cost me everything." As the meeting dragged on, revelations poured out. It turned out Karen had been quietly blocking promotions for LGBTQ+ employees, citing cultural fit. Mark had made offhand jokes in sales meetings that bordered on harassment. Troy had ignored the rumors before, focused on growth, but now it was personal. He felt the weight of his position, the first openly gay CEO in the industry, and the isolation it brought. David texted him, "Be careful, this could backfire." Troy replied, "It already has." By lunch, he decided. An investigation would launch immediately. But as he stared out at the city skyline, doubt crept in. Was he using his power for revenge or justice? That evening, over dinner, Jamie asked innocently. Daddy, why were those people mad? Troy forced a smile. Sometimes grown-ups don't understand love. David watched him, concern etching his features. Their relationship had started in college, a whirlwind romance that defied their conservative upbringings. Troy from a strict Midwestern family, David from Southern Baptists. They'd built a life, adopted Jamie after years of paperwork and scrutiny, proving to agencies that two dads could provide a stable home. But lately, Troy's workaholic tendencies had driven a wedge. We need to talk, David said after Jamie went to bed. This isn't just about them. It's about you shutting me out. Troy sighed, pulling David close. I'm scared, Dave. If I don't fight back, what message does that send? The investigation uncovered emails. Karen advising against hiring risky candidates. Mark forwarding anti-gay memes in group chats. Troy's stomach churned. He remembered his own coming out. His parents disowning him, calling his love unnatural. Now, as a father, he couldn't let that poison spread. But firing them outright? It would spark backlash, lawsuits perhaps. The board urged caution. We're in a progressive city, but shareholders are mixed. Troy paced his office late into the night, weighing the moral maze. Justice for the community or mercy for individuals? His phone rang. His sister, the only family member who still spoke to him. Troy, don't let anger define you. But anger was all he had left to protect his family. The following week, tension at Technova reached a boiling point. Whispers in the break room turned to outright debates. Was Troy overreacting? Karen and Mark were suspended pending review, their allies rallying with petitions claiming free speech. Troy buried himself in work, approving a new diversity initiative, but the personal toll mounted. David noticed the bags under his eyes. You're not sleeping, he said one morning, handing Troy coffee. Jamie played nearby, oblivious. This fight is consuming you. Troy nodded. It has to. If I back down, it's like admitting they're right. David touched his arm, a gesture that once ignited passion but now felt like comfort. Remember why we built this life, to show love wins. A bombshell dropped during the investigation. An anonymous tip revealed Karen had leaked confidential employee data to conservative blogs, targeting queer staff. Proof emerged in server logs, emails with attachments of performance reviews twisted to paint LGBTQ+ workers as unreliable. Troy confronted her in a closed-door meeting. Why? He demanded. Karen's defiance cracked. I was protecting the company from distractions. Your lifestyle, it's divisive. Troy's voice shook. My lifestyle is my family. You endangered lives. She broke down, admitting pressure from her church group, where being anti-gay was a badge of honor. Mark, in his interview, was unrepentant. It's biology. Men don't nurture like that. Troy walked out, fury boiling. At home, the strain showed. David had taken Jamie to the park, but when they returned, an argument erupted. You're turning this into a crusade, David accused. What about us? Jamie needs his dad's present, not a warrior. Troy snapped back. If I don't fight, Jamie grows up in a world that hates him for who we are. Tears welled in David's eyes. I love you, Troy, but this is tearing us apart. They slept in separate rooms that night, the silence heavier than any shout. Troy lay awake, replaying their first date. A stolen kiss in Central Park, defying the rain. How had they come to this? The media caught wind. A local news outlet ran a story. Tech CEO accused on flight, now accusers face firing. Comments flooded. Support from allies, vitriol from bigots. Troy's parents called for the first time in years, his mother pleading, "Son, forgive them. The Bible says." He hung up, heart aching. Society's judgment wasn't new, but as a public figure, it amplified. He met with a therapist, unpacking the internal conflict. The boy who hid his crushes, the man who built an empire to prove his worth. Am I seeking validation through power? The therapist asked. Troy had no answer. In the office, a young intern, openly trans, approached him. Thank you for standing up. It means everything. Her words fueled him, but doubt lingered. Firing Karen and Mark would set a precedent. But at what cost? Lawsuits could drain resources, divide the staff. The board meeting loomed. Troy prepared his case, evidence stacked. David texted, I support you, but come home whole. As he entered the boardroom, Karen and Mark waited, lawyers in tow. This is discrimination against our beliefs, Karen's attorney argued. Troy countered, beliefs that harm others aren't protected. The debate raged, ethics clashing with legality. By evening, the decision was made, termination with cause. Troy signed the papers, a mix of triumph and regret washing over him. News spread like wildfire. Employees cheered in Slack channels, but others resigned in protest. At dinner, Jamie hugged him tight. You're my hero, Daddy. David smiled faintly, but his eyes held worry. Is it over? Troy shook his head. It's just beginning. That night, they made love for the first time in weeks. A desperate reconnection amid the chaos. But as Troy drifted to sleep, he wondered if victory tasted this bitter. The backlash intensified. Conservative outlets branded Troy a woke tyrant, doxing his address. Protests formed outside Technova, signs reading free speech over feelings. Troy hired security for home, Jamie's school on alert. David grew distant, fielding calls from worried friends. Is this worth it? He asked during a heated exchange. Troy exploded. You think hiding is better? Like your family did to you. David flinched, storming out. Alone, Troy confronted his reflection. The man who'd sacrificed relationships for righteousness. Was he becoming the monster he fought? A turning point came at a company town hall. Troy stood before hundreds, voice steady. I was judged for loving my son. But this isn't about me. It's about creating a safe space for all. Applause erupted, but questions flew. What about differing views? Troy paused. Views that dehumanize aren't welcome. As he left the stage, a veteran employee shook his hand. Proud of you, boss. Yet, guilt gnawed. Karen and Mark's lives appended, their kids affected. Morality wasn't black and white. Months passed, but the ripples continued. Technova's stock dipped initially, then surged with new talent flocking to the inclusive brand. Troy became a reluctant advocate, speaking at Pride events, his story inspiring thousands. But personally, cracks widened. David suggested couples therapy. We're drifting, he admitted in session. The therapist probed, Troy, do you equate success with control? He deflected, but David's words stung. You fought for us, but now it feels like you're fighting alone. Jamie sensed the tension, drawing pictures of happy daddies to cheer them. An unexpected email arrived from Karen. I was wrong. Losing everything forced me to see. She described therapy unlearning biases. Troy met her at a neutral cafe, guards nearby. Why reach out? He asked, tears in her eyes. My daughter came out last week. I get it now, the pain I caused. The conversation was raw, forgiveness tentative. Mark refused contact, suing for wrongful termination. The case dragged, depositions dredging up Troy's past. His failed marriage to a woman before coming out, the custody battles. Media twisted it. Gay dad's hidden hetero history. Family pressure mounted. His sister visited, urging reconciliation with parents. Their old Troy, give them time. But time had scarred him, holidays alone, birthdays ignored. David encouraged, healing starts with you. They attended a support group for queer parents, sharing stories of discrimination. One couple recounted losing jobs over PDA. Another, family estrangement. Troy realized his privilege. Wealth shielded him somewhat, but the emotional toll was universal. Romance flickered back during a weekend getaway to the Hamptons. Jamie built sandcastles while Troy and David walked hand in hand, waves crashing. "I miss us," Troy whispered. David kissed him deeply. "Then choose us." Back in the city, Troy delegated more at work, prioritizing date nights. But the lawsuit loomed, threatening exposure. Mark's team dug dirt. Old emails from Troy's closeted days, self-loathing rants. "This could ruin your image," his lawyer warned. The trial began in federal court, cameras flashing. Troy testified, voice firm. "I held my son because he needed comfort." Their prejudice turned it into scandal. Cross-examination was brutal. "Isn't this revenge for personal slight?" Troy admitted the hurt but emphasized policy violations. Karen testified against Mark, her marriage dissolved. "I enabled hate," she said. The jury deliberated, society watching. Troy paced the courthouse steps, David by his side. "Whatever happens, we're together." The verdict: in Troy's favor, but damages minimal. Victory yet hollow. Post-trial, Troy reflected in his journal. The decisions that defined him, coming out, adopting, fighting back, each carried a price. Lost family, strained love, public scrutiny. David proposed renewal vows. "Let's reaffirm what matters." Planning the ceremony, Jamie as ring bearer, brought joy. But shadows lingered. Anonymous threats, online trolls. Troy hired a PR firm, rebranding as an activist CEO. Pivotal moment came at a gala. Honored for LGBTQ plus advocacy. Troy spoke. "Love isn't a choice, but fighting for it is." Applause thundered. But backstage, David pulled him aside. "I'm proud, but promise me, no more wars without us." Troy nodded, sealing it with a kiss. Home that night, Jamie asleep, they talked dreams, expanding the family, perhaps. Hope bloomed, but Troy knew battles never truly ended. As seasons changed, so did dynamics. Technova thrived, diversity scores soaring. Troy mentored young queer executives, sharing hard-won wisdom, but personal demons resurfaced. Nightmares of the flight haunted him. Jamie's cries morphing into accusations. Therapy helped, unpacking childhood trauma. A father who equated masculinity with stoicism. A mother who prayed away his sins. David supported, but his own wounds opened, disowned at 18, rebuilding from scratch. A new conflict arose, Jamie's school. A parent complained about two dads, demanding separate family events. The principal, progressive, refused, but whispers affected Jamie. "Why don't I have a mom?" he asked one day. Troy and David explained adoption lovingly, but the question pierced. They attended a PTA meeting, facing the complainer, a woman echoing Karen's views. "Traditional families first," she argued. Troy responded calmly. "Love is traditional." The room divided, but allies prevailed. Romance reignited through small acts. Surprise lunches, weekend hikes. David designed a home addition, symbolizing growth. But work pulled Troy back, a merger deal stressing him. David confronted. "You're slipping away again." The argument escalated, doors slamming. Alone. Troy called his therapist. "Am I capable of balance?" The answer, intentional choice. Reconciliation came via a family trip to California. Disneyland magic melted tensions. Jamie's laughter healed. On a beach sunset, David knelt. "Marry me again?" Troy teared up. "Yes." The vow renewal was intimate. Friends toasting their resilience. Jamie beamed. "Now we're super family." Back in New York, the merger closed successfully, but a leak revealed internal biases lingering. Troy launched training programs, mandatory inclusivity workshops. Resistance brewed. Some veterans quit. "You're forcing ideology," one emailed. Troy replied, "No, ensuring humanity." The cost? Longer hours, more strain. David's career flourished, a big project landing. Jealousy flickered in Troy, roles reversing. "I'm happy for you," he said, but tension simmered. A couple's retreat helped, exercises in vulnerability. Troy admitted fears of abandonment. David of being overshadowed. Bonds strengthened, intimacy deepened without explicitness. Society's mirror reflected progress. Laws advancing, but backlash fierce. Troy testified in Congress for anti-discrimination bills, facing hecklers. "Pervert!" one shouted. Security escorted him out, David waiting. "Worth it." Troy sighed. "For Jamie's future, yes." Years blurred, Jamie turning 8. School plays, soccer games filled calendars. Troy and David navigated parenthood's joys and judgments. Stares at parks, questions from teachers. Which one's the real dad? Troy always replied, "Both." But internal mouth wands surfaced. David wanted another child. Troy hesitated, citing chaos. "We're stable now," David urged. Debate turned heated. "You prioritize work over us." Accusations flew, echoing past fights. A health scare jolted perspective. Troy's routine checkup revealed stress-related issues. Doctor's orders. "Slow down." David nursed him, role reversal humbling. "I can't lose you," David whispered. Recovery prompted changes. Delegated CEO duties, more family time. They pursued surrogacy, paperwork grueling but exciting. Karen re-entered. Now an advocate, starting a nonprofit for reformed bigots. They collaborated on a panel, sharing stages. "Redemption is possible," Troy said. Mark, bitter, lost his suit on appeal, fading into obscurity. Family reconciliation tentative. Troy's parents reached out, health failing. A visit to Ohio, tense but healing. "We were wrong," his father admitted. Tears flowed, bridges mending slowly. Love evolved. Anniversaries celebrated grandly, quiet moments cherished. Jamie thrived, confident in his unique family. But society tested, a ballot measure threatening rights. Troy campaigned, exhausting but purposeful. David joined, united front. A climax built. Surrogacy success, a daughter on the way. Joy mingled with fear, more vulnerability. Delivery day, Troy held David's hand as baby Elena cried first. "Our miracle," they said. With 2 kids, life intensified. Sleepless nights, doubled love. Troy stepped back from CEO, promoting a queer woman successor. Freedom allowed deeper connections. Volunteering at shelters, mentoring youth. Reflections deepened. The flight incident, catalyst for change. Lives altered, Karen redeemed. Mark broken, Troy transformed. David and he grew closer, therapy ongoing. At a family gathering, Jamie asked about the past. Troy shared age-appropriately. "We fought for our right to love." Elena cooed, symbol of hope. Yet questions lingered. Had Troy's decisions been just? The prices paid, strained bonds, public scars. In quiet moments, Troy pondered morality's gray. Society evolved, but prejudice persisted. His story inspired, but at what personal cost? Was it right to wield power against personal attackers, even if it exposed systemic hate?